Reducing your tax bill as much as possible is always in your best interest. There may be some things that you are unaware of that you can actually claim a deduction for, which will see more money go back into your pocket when you submit your tax return. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese. In today's video, we are talking about what you can claim come tax time. When completing your tax return, you are entitled to claim a deduction for expenses that you have incurred over the tax year, which are directly related to you earning income. Meaning, if you had to buy something to make money as part of your job, you can claim that off of the money that you've earned, so you have to pay less tax now. And because you may have already upfront paid that tax to the ATO, they will provide you with a tax refund, which is a lump sum payment of money into your bank account. To claim a work-related deduction, as an overview, the three things that you need to understand is that the money that you spent towards buying a laptop, for example, in order to work and do your job, could not have been reimbursed by your employer. So you can't have received any money for that laptop, otherwise you can't claim the deduction. So it has to be out of your own pocket. Two is that it must be for work-related purposes. So if you use this laptop 90% of the time for work and 10% for leisure, you can only claim up to 90% of the value of the laptop. And thirdly, you need to be able to prove that you purchased it and it cost you your money, meaning a bank statement or a receipt of the item. And then depending on what the item is, you may need to also keep a record like a diary or a journal of its use. Generally, if you need to spend money to earn income, you are going to be able to claim some portion of the expense. And that can be straight up front. So let's say it was a $3,000 laptop and that's what you're claiming, the $3,000 straight off of the laptop. Or it could potentially be over a period of time, which is a depreciation. So $3,000 over 10 years is $300 a year off of each tax return. There are two different ways to do it. Just be mindful of that depending on the expense that you incurred. And just to emphasize, if the expense was work-related but is also used privately, you can only claim the work-related portion of the expense. So now for the juicy stuff. Here are some of the common deductions that you can make if applicable to you when you're preparing your tax return. One that I learned of recently is travel between work sites. So if you have to travel from your headquarters or where you're based to another work site to do your job and drive your own car and use your own petrol, you can claim 68 cents per kilometer traveled up and back. I'd only learned about this a couple years ago, where I actually have to do this for my job from time to time, and up to 5,000 kilometers, you can claim 68 cents per kilometer. I claimed somewhere in the region of $700 last year. Just keep in mind that to claim this deduction, you need to keep a logbook and provide the information of things like where you started to where you went, how far it was, so the number of kilometers that you did, and the reason for that commute. I have a very simple logbook which basically details every time that I've had to do this, and yeah, it adds up pretty quickly if you're doing it regularly. $700 on my tax return, it's not a bad deduction. Another one that people don't realize is you can claim your work uniform or protective gear depending on a few circumstances, meaning you have to have paid for the work uniform and it has to be an actual uniform, or it needs to be PPE, so protective equipment that you are required to be wearing on site, which can be claimed up to the value of $150 without a receipt, and then you actually need to have a receipt if you exceed that $150. Now, it's not $150 per item, it's $150 total. So if you buy a $300 pair of work boots, you've already exceeded that $150. Anything else that you're planning on claiming, plus the work boots, you'll need a receipt for. You can also claim a deduction for the cleaning of these clothes and this equipment. Just keep in mind that you need to keep receipts for the cleaning costs as well. This is one that people definitely use every year, and some people may exploit it a little bit. So be cautious that the ATO definitely watch and look for people who do this, because it's an easy way to catch people out if they don't have a record of that expense. Now, this is an interesting one. A few years ago, I did a sign language course with a couple of my friends, and I didn't realize that two of my friends were able to actually claim the cost of the course or the education portion because it related directly to their line of work. Whereas I was doing it for fun, I couldn't claim it on my tax. However, you may be able to claim the education expenses if you can prove that it's directly related to your work. So if you're studying engineering and you want to get into project management and you may go and do an MBA, you may be able to claim portions of that educational expense. Keep in mind, this doesn't just include the tuition fees, but also the fees associated with the actual course itself. So travel to and from the course, depending on if you're leaving work to go there and back, things like textbooks and stationery, other expenses can potentially be deducted, which if you're someone who's studying at work, which is studying a course which is going to better your work, you can claim portions of that as a deduction, which could be huge. It could be in the thousands of dollars because it's definitely going to rack up over the course of a year. Another one that I found really interesting was if you need to buy tools, equipment, or assets which are going to help you make income, you may be eligible to claim a deduction for the whole amount or portions depending on the amount that you're using privately versus for your actual job. But if it is an expense coming from your pocket but is used to make you your income, you can definitely claim a portion as a deduction. Keep in mind again that if these tools or equipment require maintenance or repairs, you can also claim those costs. And the most important thing is this is not just directly related to tradies who are using actual hand tools. A tool can constitute something like a computer monitor or an actual desktop computer if you are a full-time videographer. This is going to be a deduction for any type of equipment that is going to provide you the ability to make income. So keep that in mind, that it's not just laborers that are going to be able to claim things. It's going to be you if you need to have microphones, cameras, laptops, and computers which allow you to make income. I'm not quite there yet, and it's not really on top of my list to make money from this. I'm doing it because I enjoy it, but at some point in my future, if I do make money from it, you bet your bucket that I'm going to use these as deductions because I need them to make these videos. And if they're making me money, I'm going to deduct them. Another thing that you can claim a deduction for is if you are a member of a professional association. So as an engineer, I am an engineer by trade. If I am a member of an association called Engineers Australia, which exists here in Australia, I can sign up, pay the $500 fee. I'm not actually sure how much it is, but I can sign up to them, and whatever the fee is, I can claim that back come tax time because I am an engineer as a part of that association, and they are a recognized professional association. Therefore, it's a deductible expense. This year has been absolutely catastrophic. I guarantee people have been very generous and donated. As I've mentioned in many of my videos, I've actually made a video about donating, which I'll link in the description below. But you need to understand that you can claim a deduction if they are a registered company and they fit the criteria of being a deductible charity. So I encourage you to watch my video on donations because that will explain what type of charities you can claim a deduction for that you may have donated to and the ones that you can't. If you've been working from home this past year, which I guarantee a lot of us have, you can also claim a deduction for the hours worked from home and the expenses surrounding the office that you have basically had to set up to be able to work from home. This will affect some people greater than others. But again, I've linked another video in the description which explains the 3 methods you can use to claim working from home and all the types of things that are associated with your home office that you'll be able to claim throughout the year. So highly encourage watching that one because I guarantee, like I said, a lot of people have been working from home this year. Finally, on my list is one that people may not be aware of, but you can actually claim the cost of your accountant. But you can't claim the cost of your accountant for this year's tax return. You can claim the cost of your accountant for last year's tax return. So keep in mind, if you went and saw an accountant last year, you will be able to claim a deduction for that service. The description down below is going to be massive because I have left links to all of the relevant pages for the ATO, which will provide the specific details about each of these types of deductions that you may be eligible for. If you have incurred expenses in any of these categories that I've talked about today, I highly recommend going to these links, having a read through because they are not overwhelming at all and they spell it out absolutely perfect, which is what you need to understand what you may be eligible for and what you may not be eligible for to claim a deduction. It may see a higher return in your tax return, which means you get more money in your pocket. And how long is it going to take you to do it? I don't think very long at all. So I highly encourage you to use the resources that I've provided below. I hope that I've given you some insight into the things that you may be eligible to claim come tax time. Make sure you do your own research because at the end of the day, it may be more money in your pocket tomorrow. Overall, I hope you learned something new in today's video. I hope that it was insightful. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. And I'm gonna go make a cup of tea because I can see how much rain is coming down from the sky right now, and it's freezing because it's the middle of July. But as always, see you in the next one.